So this episode of Chicago's Bravest Stories is brought to you by Lifeline Ambulance.
You an EMT, paramedic looking for a full-time, part-time, or seasonal job? Lifeline Ambulance is looking for both. And they're in the Skokie and Chicago locations. Very competitive pay, benefits available. Check them out.
Vision, dental, go to lifeline2020.com. At the top of the page, you'll see apply for a job. I mean, I've worked at a private ambulance. I know you have, Corey. It's really your foundation into, being a paramedic or an EMT. I can't think of anybody who's a paramedic or EMT with any time on that hasn't started their career as working for a private. It's just kind of part of the process. So, it really builds the foundation of your EMS career. Everybody has their stories of, working for a private, and Lifeline Ambulance isn't your typical private ambulance service. These guys really are more like a family. They have competitive rates. They're looking for full-time, part-time, EMTs, paramedics, like you said. So go apply lifeline2020.com. What else, Corey?
Yeah, you said it, Vince. I mean, I know you don't use a stair chair, but I learned everything I know about a stair chair from working the private. So that's where you're going to get your start.
And unlike Corey, I use a stretcher to convey properly my patients. So
definitely don't do that.
You'll get to learn those skills too. Now, in all seriousness, lifeline2020.com. This episode sponsored by Lifeline Ambulance Service. Thank you. Check them out.
Engine 1, Engine 4, Truck 2, Truck 10, Ambulance 82, Battalion 2, Fire 1020 North Main, help is on the way.
All right, Tommy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So welcome to Chicago's Bravest Stories. We kind of wanted to change things up here, and we have with us Tom Gariti, who spent 35 years? 35 years in the alarm office, dispatching. I know you dispatched us on fire. Did you dispatch CPD as well?
No, just fire and EMS.
Fire and EMS for 35 years, huh, Tommy?
Yes.
And you just recently retired.
I started out as a call taker, answering phones for 4 or 5 years, and then there's a promotion. You take a promotion, take a test for a dispatcher, and
so kind of tell people and move right up in there. If you move the whole stand, I mean, you can still sit where you are. Just move that microphone there. So some people don't understand the whole process of what happens when somebody makes a 911 call. So kind of walk us through that process and how it winds up getting to the people that you're sending out.
So when you call 911, it goes on the police side. They answer all the 911 calls for the city of Chicago. So they may answer, 12 to 15,000 calls a day, because they for everything, open hydrants and, cat stuck in a tree, whatever. And then if they get a call for a fire or an EMS call, they fast forward it to us and they stay in line with us and they listen to what we need in case, anywhere from a gunshot to a accident to a fire to, anything that we get. We have a flip card system that we follow on EMS calls, and they call there to ask proper questions. And then if it's a fire call, we get to get the information, get an address, and get somebody going. And then on a second call, the dispatcher might say, the fireman on the way, what do you see burning? Or, and they might say there's 2 buildings burning. They might say somebody's trapped in the building. And then the call taker would tell a dispatcher that they're trapped, and then they would give them an extra alarm, give them a box. They would ask for we would box a fire. Or if there's a big accident, the office might make a plan 1 out of it, But the police get the first call, and then we subsequently, they send it to us, and then we answer the call, and the call taker sends it to the dispatcher, and then the dispatcher comes up, and we have a CAD system now, so it's a computer-aided dispatch center. So it brings up the map, and
Does it show you who is available right around that particular
Right, shows
incident?
you, it recommends who you to send, but then it also at the GPS, they might have they might show on the bottom, they might show on the top, close, the company it belongs to, but then somebody might be closer coming from the shops or something.
Yeah.
And they might send them closer because they're a little closer to.
So you're always trying to get the closest.
Our
piece
job
of
is get the
apparatus.
closest piece of apparatus to the scene, right?
Okay.
In a good amount of time.
Okay. So I imagine that things have changed a little bit since when you first started. You talked about like now we have the computer aided dispatch.
Oh yeah.
What was different from when you started? Like how were things dispatched? Because
Well, we had amplified systems. So we had Maine at City Hall, room 607, and that was the main. So, and then Inglewood was at 63rd and Wentworth off the Dan Ryan, right across from St. Bernard's
there were
Hospital.
two completely separate from each other.
Right, Maine and Inglewood. So it used to be 39th Street before I started straight across with anything north of 39th would be Maine, anything south of 39th would be Inglewood. But then they made it the sanitary shipping canal, which is, if you look at a map, it runs on an angle. So it's about 31st and like Pulaski over that way.
Okay.
So anything north of the shipping canal is Maine, which is 31st to Howard on the north, and then all the way 31st to 138th Street on the south, and then to the lakefront, and then different parts out west of the city limits, how far west we go.
Well, it's kind of been put in our heads throughout the years that Cermak was the dividing line between north and south.
Correct. That's for Maine and Inglewood is Cermak, but then it actually is a sanitary shipping canal. But basically, if it's anything south of Cermak, goes to Inglewood. Anything north of Cermak goes to for calls.
Okay, so back when you started, the south side had nothing, didn't really know what the north side was doing, and vice versa.
Oh no,
right?
we had communication all the time through an amplified system.
Okay, so
it's-
you just heard them over a speaker what they were doing?
Right. It was a hardwire system that ran through the city of Chicago, and it's just an amplified system. And you'd open a little button, and you'd be talking to a firehouse, Or
Oh, you could talk directly to the firehouse.
correct, yes.
Okay.
Right. And then also we'd open a little button, and we could talk to Inglewood back and forth. We had a direct line to him to talk to him, So we were always in communication because if we get a fire that's on the borderline, sometimes we'd use Inglewood companies, sometimes they'd use Mays companies, and then we would, communicate from there.
So if you were sending a particular firehouse to an incident, let's say you were sending a firehouse to a fire, you would just connect straight to them and just tell them over a speaker, hey,
Correct.
you guys have a fire.
Right, correct. So we'd open usually 3 or 4 speakers at a time and say, for your instance, where you're at, hello, 44 in the truck, and then 95 in the truck and the buggy, and then they would answer in when there was their turn, hello, 44 in the truck, and then they close the speaker and then answer 95, you got it, and then they would, you had to pay attention, and then they'd have to, back in the day before I started, they used to have a telegraph system, obviously,
Right.
and they used to still out a chief, and you had to pay attention, So you kind of had to pay attention when you were on
So
watch.
you had to get all those still companies, then
Right.
you had to get the chief,
Right,
and you had to do all that separately.
correct.
And wow, that's crazy. During that whole part of that time, did you have to sit down? Did you have a pad of paper and a pen? Like how was?
No, it was just a tab. You write the address on a tab, and then you would send the companies, and then when they came home, they sent their returns in. So we had Joker. We had Joker system where they send their returns in. So the engines were the engines, and the trucks were 3. So it'd be like truck 36 would be 3, 4, 6.
Okay.
So it'd be So
I mean,
and then the chiefs were 2. So battalion 1 would be 2, 3, 1. So it just was signatures.
Okay.
They just kind of
and how were those were sent in over the telegraph?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you had to listen, and you had to listen, like deciphering the telegraph,
Right.
To put these guys back in quarters.
So as you see, a lot of times people put when somebody passed away, they put 335. That was returned to quarters.
Right.
So they would hit 335 and then their signature, and then we would time them off the ticket and put it away.
Interesting. I don't think a lot of people realize that and what those numbers signify.
Right, exactly.
So you started what year, Tommy?
1985
1985.
of June.
And how did you get involved? Like, what made you start your career in this?
Well, my dad was a retired deputy fire commissioner. My brother was a retired field chief. My other brother was a retired lieutenant, and then I have one brother left who's a lieutenant. So, kind of a family tradition. And now my son is going into the fire service as well.
Yeah.
He just finished academy at Romeoville, and then he'll be going to. He has to take 2 more tests, a hazmat and a driving safety class, and then he'll be going out to Marionette Park and a couple suburbs, get his feet wet, and then I think next year or the year after, he'll play for tests in Chicago, and hopefully, if he gets on Chicago, we can find my dad's badge and have my dad give it to him, God willing,
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be a 3rd generation for my family, because my brother John, my brother Bob always carried my dad's badge as a fireman. Then if I could find it, you just sometimes you find it and ask a guy if he's willing to give it up for for this.
Right. Well, explain that. A lot of people don't understand that whole process. So if your family was on the job prior to you, somebody else on the job may wind up with his badge.
Correct.
We return our badges
if it's available, or if the guy's not willing to give it up. I mean,
but you can track down the guy who has that number, who has maybe your father's badge, your brother's badge, or whatever.
Correct.
And when you come on, you may ask him to borrow that badge so that you can pin it.
Right.
And, wear that badge symbolically.
Right, exactly.
So, and that's an amazing thing. And, I know on the police side, that's a big deal. They're pinning, and it's kind of, you don't see too much of that now on our side. With it was like a big a big tradition for family members to pin each other.
Well, they just had a graduation from the academy,
right?
And due to COVID, obviously people couldn't go, due to COVID-19. And a couple of friends, a friend of mine, his daughter started, and I called him yesterday and talked to him about it, and he said they couldn't make it, but they're going to have a little celebration. But it's COVID has changed a lot of things in the fire and everything. It's changed the world actually.
Yeah. Did you see the group of paramedics who graduated and they all had to come in separately, or they're standing all 6 feet away?
I did.
And it was silent.
Yeah, I did see that.
It was crazy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was so weird because we make, our graduation says they should be like real celebrations.
Right,
We
exactly.
go over the top and you go to Navy Pier or you go to
it's a big thing for your families, and
you earned it, you deserve it.
Right.
So it was kind of awkward to watch that, wearing masks, being 6 feet apart, just in complete silence. It was interesting to say the least. So you did you have to apply? You went down to the alarm office and
you just went online and applied. You had to be. I was an EMT because I went to EMT school, but.
Is that a prerequisite for?
No, when I started, it was funny because when I started, I asked the boss. I said, "Do I need to keep my EMT license current?" He said, "Nah, we won't need that." And then a year later, we were all going to EMT school, and now it's a job. And now it's a job requirement to be an EMT, to be a dispatcher, or call taker, I should say.
So, call takers physically, when somebody picks up the phone and dial 911, they're talking to a call taker.
But they get to police first, and if it's an ambulance or a fire call, they switch it to our side then.
So it goes from one call taker to another call taker?
No, just one call taker.
A call taker is just across the board.
Right.
Okay.
Answering the phones. They answer the phone citywide.
Okay.
And then once they get the information, they put it in the computer. They send it to either north or south. It'll determine, what side it goes to, and then we bring it up, and it'll recommend companies to go to the location, whatever it might be. And then if there's somebody closer, like I said, with the GPS, we might send them. And then a lot of the chiefs are on the air. We have to get them on the air, or like a field chief if it's if it's an accident, or something he needs to go to or something.
Right.
Or if he says, I'm going to go, I'm going to take that one in, we put him on there and stuff. And so.
I know it, and you were an actual dispatcher where you and I would talk. If I'm working that day, you and I are talking on the radio.
Correct.
You're sending me to a run. I'm acknowledging you.
Correct.
And, you and I are talking voice to voice. And I know that, people listening, there's probably people listening going, I know that voice. I know that voice. Because you can't mistake your voice from somebody else.
No, I have a very distinct voice. I've been told that many, many times, Vince. Yeah, but a very distinct voice.
So let's talk about some of the more memorable, like you were dispatching some of the big historical fires within the last, 20 years or so, right?
Sure.
Kind of run down that history of some of the most memorable and biggest events that you dispatch, because that's a big deal. You think that it's a big deal to go to these runs and you got a lot of stuff going on,
right?
But what people don't realize, and this was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, in these big events, think about what you had to do on your end of that incident.
Correct.
You're kind of quarterbacking this whole thing. And if you're losing your shit, it's ultimately gonna fall apart. So, kind of give us the Tom Gariti highlights.
So there's three. Well, it's a team effort for sure. It's not Tom Gariti highlights by any means. It's a team effort. You have 3 dispatchers on Main, 3 on Englewood. You might have an extra dispatcher. So you might have 7 or 8 dispatchers, and you might have 7 or 8 call takers and 2 supervisors for the whole city. So back in the day, we would get a lot more fires, a lot more extra alarms. They had the fire boxes where they would, the kids would hit them with a bat or something, or they pull the box and we'd have to go out and they'd check it. You have to go out, check the box and rewind the box, and then we'd go back to the firehouse. And, there's a lot of extra alarm fires, the Bulls parades. I worked all the Bulls parades.
Is that where we get check the box from?
Yes, check the box.
Just because
check and wind.
People would mess it up and they'd have to go out, check it, and rewind it. Just because.
And basically, the people who have boxes now are like institutions, like hospitals and nursing homes, schools, and stuff like that. They have still have the boxes.
But it was a physical box with a mechanical winding system.
It was a
inside.
street box, correct?
Yeah,
and tall red box, and then he had the police, and then years ago,
police had the blue ones.
And then years ago they would dial. There was 2 numbers. It was FI71313 and PO51515. It was the actual direct lines to the police department before they came up with 911.
Oh, okay.
When I started, it was 911, but the FI7 when I started.
But your predecessors had those codes.
But the number FI71313 still worked when I was working. When I started working, we tried it. Just tested
so
it.
you could dial up that number and it would go?
It would go right to the office, right?
Wow.
Correct. It was a little red phone,
Your bat phone?
Yeah, like I would say, it was just like the bat phone, right? Right. It was a little red phone, and then the marsh line system was a red phone throughout the firehouse when they conducted business in the firehouse. They would use a marsh line.
Okay. Take us back to your big incidences that you've done. What's the biggest one that comes to mind?
Biggest one, well, the Hawks Parade with 2010 was the biggest one. I mean, that was one of the biggest ones. The Taste of Chicago every year, back in the day, it would get busy. Like I said, fires were a lot more prevalent now and now it's more EMS calls.
Well, the Hawks, we lost that event. Like there was a point where we just kind of circled the wagons and kind of went.
Yeah, in 2010 when I was working that day, and I was on Maine and obviously on the radio, and we started getting busy before the parade even started. It was very hot. It was 95.
It was ridiculously hot.
It was like 95 degrees with a heat index probably over 100. And so I told the supervisor, I said, I think we need to change a couple ambulances closer to, one downtown and one maybe off the lakefront.
And you had bike teams out there too.
We had the bike teams, right, and we had everybody out there. And so I put there was the ambulance 61 who just came in service, was there for a while, but I moved them to Engine 55's house, which is a little closer to the lakefront, and then I took one south and put them in Engine 13's house before they got an ambulance. Now they have an ambulance in the firehouse, and we just kind of started working it. It got really busy, and it got to the point 'cause they were dispatching from out there. The paramedics were dispatching, they would tell us where they were sending. And finally, it just got, when the bus pulled up, they rushed the bus, and I think that's when they just kind of lost a little bit of control.
The bus with the players.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And that's when and so I kind of went to 451, who was a field chief, and I said, listen, I'm going to take the dispatch back. I'm going to dispatch for everything. And I had great partners that day, great supervisor.
You didn't get any resistance on that, did you?
No, Dan O'Donnell was behind me. I had Mike Canning and I had Mario Cabrera, so we had some good people helping, and we kind of ran the whole thing, and it kind of ran smooth, and I didn't really get up for 12 hours because it was just so busy.
Yeah.
Maybe to go to the bathroom, but then you just come back, and they were just one after another, and they were looking for water, and they were looking for different, and then as the years, we won in 13 and 15, and as the years, they got better at, needing more help because you have,
Well, nobody had any idea how big that was going to be.
Well, you have Cubs fans and you have Sox fans, but you have Blackhawk fans. That's everybody. Everybody likes hockey, obviously. So there was probably 1.5 million people downtown, and like you said, it was hot.
Is that what they estimated that to be?
Probably somewhere along the lines there. Yes, exactly. And then
if you see some of the overhead pictures of what that looked like, I believe it.
Oh yeah. It was just, you couldn't move.
That was crazy. What else? Any super big fires any downtown big fires that you were doing?
Just the high-rise fires were always a big deal.
Yeah.
People trapped in the building, or I worked a couple where we lost a couple firefighters. That was, hard.
Yeah.
That was hard because,
were you dispatching during the Ancum Stringer?
Yes, I was.
That was you?
I was on EMS, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, we were working that fire. That was, back in 2010, to December 22nd, about 7:30 in the morning, they got a call for a fire. It was in between shifts, so they were getting ready to go home in a factory, and, all of a sudden, that back wall collapsed, and, it just went chaotic. But you have to, like you said, you have to keep your cool, and you have to just... basically, I tell people when you're on the radio, just whatever these guys ask for, just if we can give it to them, give it to them.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking to do. You're looking to you have to keep everybody in order. You have to make sure all your companies, like people call for the shops and go out of service and stuff, and you have to you have to make different we might change the quarters of an engine or truck, or even an ambulance sometimes. Not too much an ambulance, but an engine or truck, just to cover that area, make sure everything is covered. And that's a senior's decision. But again, the dispatchers and the senior, as a watch, work together.
Yeah.
I worked with some great people.
Back
in the day?
During the Ancum Stringer, how did this start unfolding for you at the alarm office? It started as a still?
Started as a still, and it was wintertime, obviously 3 days before Christmas, and got a call for, factory, and they were all in there at one time, and they figured out it was vacant or whatever. They thought it was vacant. And then apparently there was a guy, a homeless guy in there, and they went in to get him, and a couple companies were looking for him. And I think that when the back wall collapsed, and then, he first, he was having water problems. It was cold out, so he had frozen hydrants. So he asked for the next alarm, which is the box alarm, and then...
we had Jimmy O'Connell in here when we, one of our early podcasts, and he kind of went through the incident too, and
right.
He was there, and he, just how he described it. If that's something you want to listen to, you can go back. It's one of our earlier episodes, but he kind of was like, there was so much going on
right
there, so I can only imagine.
The radio gets crazy, and everybody's trying to call you to find out what's going on, and we just tried to, I tried to, they were close enough to Lakeshore Drive going to Northwestern with the firemen, so we tried to clear a path for them to go, and, and then Engine 98 came on the radio. They were thinking.
So now, did you guys have to, I always wondered this when, we have a police officer shot or injured fireman where they make when a police officer gets injured, they make the blue, they call it the blue highway.
Right.
And they just they literally line the streets with police cars, close up the. How does that path get determined to the we decide the hospital, but
Right.
I mean, I've been there where
That's more of a police thing that they do. I think that they just do that, and then we just follow the lead to get the guy to the hospital. And if
it's amazing how by the time you're done with, to the point where it's time to go to the hospital, that highway is already set up.
Right.
The light, you don't have, you just follow the lights.
Right, exactly.
And it takes you to that parking spot at that trauma center.
Right. Yeah. They really, like, we're in the same building as the police. We're on the same floor, so there's obviously it's one big operations center on the third floor where it's police and fire together, and at the 911 center on Madison Street, and we just worked. We worked with them, and obviously we know when something big's here because they're coming over. Hey, we're doing this. Okay, you have your ambulance go this way, or they'll tell us what's going on. Like an active shooter, same thing. They call for the active shooter, then we send a response there, and Did
you work any active shooter incidences?
No, I did not.
No.
I was already. I used to go to a lot of drills.
Yeah.
They would have me go to a lot of drills and to work them and stuff. And
who was dispatching the Mercy Hospital? Do you know?
They did a great job. I don't remember who was working, but we just made a tape of that for a training class for this Illinois Air Rescue. We're going to talk about in a few minutes. And they said it was a great tape, but they just did what they're supposed to do. They did a great job,
Yeah.
And it was just a very it's quick decisions. I think the dispatch is quick decisions. It's decision making. It's quick decisions. You have to make a quick decision and what you want to do, and and like I said, it's a team effort by all the people who are working.
Did you ever get? And I know this happens just because I've gotten to hear it a couple times in my career, and it obviously it doesn't happen often. But you get anybody that gets really how do you handle somebody on the radio who is getting real pissy with you?
You just have to take control.
Yeah, because it happens, right?
Sure,
there may be a difference of
he might have a bad day.
Yeah, or if is that my run, or why are you sending me to this, or
Right.
I'm doing something
Right.
How do you handle that? Because
the best way is don't get in an argument on the radio. Just say, when you get to the hospital, give me a call.
Yeah.
And then we just discussed it, and I explained why. I justified what I did. Like I said, you might have been on a bad day. You might be on your 20th run or whatever, and we get that. We understand that.
This episode also sponsored by
Firehawk Coffee.
FirehawkCoffee.com. Actually, I'm kind of peed off at these guys because they took one of the college nicknames that I gave you, which was Firehawk, added coffee to the end.
They're going to have to pay royalties to you and I
for
stealing our name. Firehawkcoffee.com, 20 gourmet coffees, the single origin, the flavored blend. They even have these sample packs so you can pick your own favorite coffee. Free shipping, and one of Steve's favorite coffees, the breakfast blend.
Yeah, I say loved it. They also have a couple other their top sellers. Another great college nickname, Italian Dark Roast, 6-bean dark blend.
There's your nickname right there.
We thought that we know Bill's over there working really hard on making all these original roasts. So
yeah, if you're tired of drinking that swill that sometimes wind up at the firehouse where the cook that's all he could grab when he was at out shopping, then you really will appreciate Firehawk Coffee, because there's nothing worse than going in, grabbing that pot, pouring it, and it's dealer's choice.
Yeah. You don't want to get your coffee from the same guy you get your rip-off DVDs from, okay? So yeah, remember, visit firehawkcoffee.com, and right now they've got free shipping anywhere in the U.S.
You can also use promo code Firehawk10. That saves 10% when you spend $20 or more. And another promotion going on at Firehawk Coffee is buy 3, get 1 free. So buy 3, get 1 bag for free. So Firehawk Coffee, check it out. It really is great coffee, and like I said, they'll ship it right to you. So firehawkcoffee.com. Thank you so much. I heard a story of an old chief who, and like I thank God that I don't remember any of the names or the circumstance, but an old, long gone field chief, I think he was a field officer back then, got into it with a dispatcher, and he gets on the phone and he's like, "I'm going to come down there and knock you off your chair." And,
No, it was over the radio. He did.
Oh, it was
actually.
over the radio?
Yeah.
Oh, so you know this story?
Yes, I was there.
Oh, were you
actually.
really?
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, my God.
I was there.
And he actually went down there, right?
No, he didn't come down. No, he didn't come
No?
down. He just went on the radio and, made a comment. And the ADCP, the deputy chief paramedic heard it, and he took care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took
Man.
care of it.
I had heard that story, and I was like, oh, my God, I can't.
You have to work together. You have to work together as, you have to help out the fire and the police, and we have to, the ambulance and the fire, we have to work as a team,
Well, and one thing from my end of like an incident where I really need to work with you guys is if I'm pulling a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who aren't familiar with Chicago's EMS system, if you call for an EMS plan, a plan 1 and above, you're getting 5 ambulances. You're in a situation where you're going to need a lot more resources. So you're getting 5 more ambulances, an engine, truck, another chief,
Right.
and now you have to coordinate all that. Plus, keep the alarm office up to date on what's going on, and
Correct.
kind of keep you guys in the loop.
Correct.
So if things change, or give me another one.
Well, there's 5 ambulances and a plan, and then
But what some people don't realize is you're on the scene. Let's say you have 5 victims, and you're
Correct.
on the scene. You're doing triage, and you call for 5 ambulances. They're sending you 4 ambulances. You're not going to get 5
No,
more
it's-
unless you ask for
right,
it. So,
correct. If
make
have
sure
th-
you're doing your math right.
If you have 3 ambulances, you ask for a plan, you're gonna get 2 more for a total of 5. And I always
That
I
messed me
clarify
up
it.
That messed me up one time because that exact same and it didn't even your mind isn't thinking about that. I need a plan, 5 ambulances.
Right.
And if you already have 3 there, you're not going to get a
I
total
would
of 8
I
on the scene.
Me personally, a lot of people I'd say, yeah, you want to plan 1, okay, you're gonna get 2 more for a total of 5. This way you hear that,
Yeah.
and then say,
That
what?
would have been helpful on this particular one that I
Right.
did. And once I was like, and I call back and I'm like, who are my ambulances? And they're rattling off 2 more. I'm like, and?
Yeah, right.
I'm like,
Wait, where's my
and then it dawned on me, I did the math wrong.
Right,
you know?
exactly. So you can get 5, and then you can ask for 2 additional up to 7, and then you're supposed to
Then you got to upgrade.
pull a plan 2, and
Yeah.
then 5 more, then 2, and then obviously
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
So what are some of the big changes since you started? I mean, outside of technology, like what are some of the big changes from the time that you left to the time that you walked in the door 35 years ago?
No, we had an amplified sit. We were at a CAD center behind the academy, and you would just push a button, it would send the tones out in the firehouse, and that was about a year it lasted, and we went back to the old office as man in Inglewood. So 85 to 80, probably 86, and then 86 to 96, we were at the old, and then 96 we went on Madison Street to the Office of Emergency Management Communications, OEMC, and then
And now you have like literally a big board, and it shows you like with lights where people are, right?
correct.
And so when you talk about, I got to send this guy, you good?
Yeah, good.
Okay. You want to, you couldn't get that mental picture of where people were. And, how'd you keep track of everybody?
Well, it's a board. It's a board with lights, and when you put yourself out of service or a special duty, it goes red. That means you're on something. You're either in a fire, or an ambulance call, or you're out, or you're out of service. And then we have a board on a CAD
But that
system.
but that's now. But what about back
Oh,
in
we
the day?
just write paper.
Just had it on a piece
Yeah,
of
it
paper.
was all tabs. So it was white for a still, a fire, and then it was green when the ambulance assist program came into it. We'd have a green tab for the ambulance assist, and then pink would be out of service or and then if you have the special duty would be a white, and you have to put a certain different codes. Like 41 was special duty, so and then we could tap it on the key so everybody could hear us citywide. So you tap out you would send out this the still on the key, and you could hear it out throughout the firehouses.
You didn't have to like learn any of that Morse code, did you? Or you just kind of it was all number system?
No, we had to learn Morse code too.
Did you really?
Because we'd also do electrical work, a little bit of electrical work. I didn't really do much because I never, the supervisors who did that, and I was a dispatcher. But they would do what happens if they would have repairmen on the street be fixing the boxes and stuff. We still do. So you have to learn a little bit Morse code. Yeah, we have to know Morse code.
So you had to be an EMT. You had to learn Morse code.
Right.
What else did you have
Now we're EMDs, emergency medical dispatchers. That's a certification now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it became a certification as an EMD. So that's just basically a dispatch job and just your EMD. So you're an EMD, CPR certified, and then you had the Morse code and
Okay.
like it was and then if you, like I said, you'd get a lot of calls for a fire, even a car fire. You might get one call for a building completely involved, and you might get 30 calls for a car fire.
Well, that's how when I first came on, the guys who were telling me you can tell if it's a legit shooting or a legit fire, you look on the screen and you could see how many people have called or
Right, exactly.
that
Sure.
list. If it's just one or something,
Right.
it's probably nonsense. But when you look on that screen and you see 5, 10
But
lists,
if we would get calls, numerous
Yeah.
calls for fires, and then of course we'd escalate to the next alarm out before they even got there.
Yeah. Why we got you here? Why don't you in your retirement, you've kind of moved on to a new position, right?
Yeah.
You're back at your old building,
Yeah, I'm back at the UMC, second floor.
and they kind of they brought you in for a new lease on life, a new avenue to go down with this. Kind of run us down what you're doing right now.
Illinois Heart Rescue, Terry Campbell is she's a flight nurse, and I work with Dr. Eddie Marco from Masonic, and there was a bunch of us. It's just a company, nonprofit organization, and they do CPR, bystander CPR, all over the state of Illinois. So we have people all over the place, and what I do is I listen to.
That's their big push
The
is
biggest
to
get CPR. They want to increase the survival rate, and they want to get people, get CPR on board, quick as possible. And so what they did is I went to, talk to a couple of doctors, and next thing we know, so we listen to calls. I listen to 911 calls at the 911 center. Your calls that you guys go on. Be it anything with cardiac arrest or anything they're doing CPR. We're trying to build a program to do we do 100% call review of the call. So I'm just doing dispatch numbers. If they want CPR, CARES wants CPR on board in less than a minute, And could it be done
a minute from the time that you guys get the phone call?
from the time you get the call till the first compression?
Okay.
So it's a lot, but you know what? If you take control of the call, and you ask if they're conscious, if they're breathing normally. So if they're not breathing normally, we're starting CPR. So that's the new thing that they changed is just ask if they're asking breathing. No, they're asking if they're breathing normally. And anybody can join throughout the state. I can give you some information.
Yeah,
of an email.
We'll give that out
Right.
at the end
At
so
the
that
end,
people
right.
yeah. So
So I've listened to 1,300 calls already since I've been doing this. And what I do is I put the ones that are cardiac arrest in times, and our times are right about 2 minutes, 2:25 of getting CPR on board. So we're
out of
about
the 1,300, that you listed, how many wound up being like legit cardiac arrests?
Probably, let's say 400.
Okay.
400 or 500.
Because, I asked that number because I get sent on a lot of
Right.
cardiac, arrests or, unconscious not breathing, and
Right.
it winds up, what is it most of the time? It's an overdose.
Right. An overdose,
Yeah.
or it could be, a seizure or something.
Yeah.
They said,
Yeah. I mean, out by me, it's 99.9% overdose.
correct. Right.
But, you guys are, if it comes, what's your criteria for you to start looking at this? That it gets entered in the CARES system?
Right.
Okay. And
So-
then that's when they're like, all right, Tommy, go check this one out.
Right. I work with Beth Cialino, who's a retired paramedic, and I work with Chris or Matt Trezelko, who's a retired paramedic. They work, so we work hand in hand with Masonic County, UFC. So it's a big team. It's a big team. It's a
And
great
this is just all a push to get
Right.
bystander
CPR, right?
or
So there's-
anybody CPR.
Right. So there's no more mouth to mouth.
Yeah.
No more mouth to mouth, and we were at 2% in Chicago for the survival rate. We're at about 9 or 10%. So we've quadrupled or doubled or tripled the survival rate and the bystander CPR. 35% more people are doing CPR right now, and we're trying to keep increasing the numbers. And this morning I had a meeting. Rosemont just joined CARES. They just joined CARES. And what they do is they put all their cardiac arrest into a computer, and then we, go through them. And like I said, the doctors look at them, and then I do my dispatch part, and then I make a spreadsheet, and then we're building a training program for the dispatchers, for the call takers to get CPR on board in a minute. And like I said, we're about 2 minutes, 2:25 of getting the first compression down right now. So we're getting there.
So when you've listened to 1,300 calls, what's the biggest resistance you're getting from the general public on? Because I see it all the time that caller refused.
Right? They don't
or,
want. Yeah, they don't
you
want
know,
to do CPR.
Yeah.
They're just calling. Our call takers are excellent. They do a great job.
So there's got to be some salesmanship on your end of it
Sure.
to be like, hey, I need you to do compressions on this
Right.
guy or he's going to die.
Right?
Or-
Exactly. Sure.
So, and that, you're trying to get, within 60 seconds, you're trying to get your first compression. So
Right.
you got the explanation of what's going on.
Right.
Now you got the salesmanship.
Right.
You're already behind, by the time that you
But
talk
what
somebody.
what you do is get on the call, take control of it. Take control of the call. Then you ask the questions: is he conscious? Is he breathing normally? No. Then start CPR. Don't forget about the blood pressure, the diabetes,
Yeah.
health history. That's your guys' department. You guys figure that out. Sure. If he's breathing, then find out. And you're trying to figure out what's going on. That he's sick, then figure out what's going on. Does he have high blood pressure? Is he if he's having a stroke or something? And he is conscious and alert. Then you're kind of asking questions.
What do you tell somebody if is he breathing? And let's say it's middle of December, and is he breathing? And they come back with, I can't tell.
You know what?
Just go, just do it.
No, you just get them you try to get them on the floor, or get them on a hard surface, and you do maybe a chest rub and see or try just to get his attention. If he's not, I would say start CPR right away.
So this is all part of the algorithm for these, like, people who initiate this phone call on these,
Right, and
potentially-
people are being people are really being more assertive and getting involved more. That they want to do CPR. And mostly it's a family member. It's they say 95% it happens in a home or somebody up to a loved one, correct? And for a cardiac arrest, but I mean, like I said, you get your shootings, your stabbings, your overdose. If it's just one person with an overdose, yeah, we're going to do CPR. The shootings, they're really excited, but again, taking control of the call is part of the job, and our call takers do great. Our dispatchers are great. Supervisors, it's a good organization. I mean, we're helping them,
And so with the organization, what are you trying to just get awareness out there? Or are you trying to promote other departments into using this system
No,
of
just
initiating?
just get the awareness out there.
Okay.
Just get it's bystander CPR. to get all the fire departments involved we can about bystander CPR, and that we're doing 100% call review, and
Is that standard protocol for other departments to get them to initiate bystander CPR? Because from all the literature that I've read, that bystander CPR is the biggest significant change in the person's outcome.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So if you did more bystander CPR, ultimately, theoretically, you'd be saving more lives.
Right. A quick story. Sunday, a friend of mine called me. There was a cardiac arrest out south in Chicago Ridge, and a woman collapsed out out in Chicago Ridge. There, she was watching her granddaughter's softball game, and the fireman was a coach. The coach of the softball team was a fireman, and there was another fireman there. And when she went down, they started bystander CPR right away. The ambulance got there within a couple minutes. They shocked her 2 or 3 times and got her. They had a ROSC, which is called a ROSC. Breathing, the person was breathing again.
Right, a return of spontaneous circulation.
Yes, correct, a ROSC. So that's what they got, and then he right to the cath lab, and knock on wood, she's doing pretty good. And so the bystander CPR is extremely important. I was working for a medical company, my son and myself, at Soldier Field. We were working a race, and somebody went down. We got there, and there was, of course, there was 2 people doing CPR, and myself and another paramedic got there that was working at Soldier Field, and we shocked him 2 times or 3 times, and by the time he got to the hospital, he was, talking
alive,
and wanting to go home.
Alive.
Yeah. I worked for Event Medical Solutions. It was just
right. I remember, like I just saw you, before this whole COVID thing. Me, and your son, we were in the trenches.
Right, exactly.
We battled out that day, didn't we?
Yeah, Matt Skipper is the CEO of the company, and he's got a great company that But that's
there was a point in time during that whole Lollapalooza that me, and your son were just pulling bodies out of it. Where they start. So in the big, general area with all the audience members, when they start like body surfing and when they make their way up front,
right.
It's up to you guys.
Well, the security guards are helpful too. When
they really start going, there's not enough security guys to pull.
We jump in, right?
We jumped in. And I saw you guys doing it. I'm like, oh man, I can't sit here doing nothing. So I jumped in, and we must have pulled out 100 people out of that.
Oh, for sure, easy.
At least 100 people, just in the time. And then I had to go, and I felt bad because I'm like, the bodies aren't stopping.
They're still going.
The wave is still going.
Oh no, they 120,000 people walked through the doors, walked through the gates at a time, and
you're like, hey, this is my son. Oh, here's another body.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just this is his first. I said.
That was his first year?
It was his first year, yeah.
Oh, God bless
So he said, welcome to EMS. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it was a quick handshake, and then it was grab a body.
Right,
grab
exactly.
a body. That was fun.
We were at Riot Fest also.
Yeah.
And
those are my 2 favorite events.
Right, exactly. And now, because of COVID, it's all canceled.
COVID sucks. It
does.
ruined everything.
It did. COVID sucks, right? We all say that COVID sucks, right?
Yeah.
It ruined everything because everything's canceled,
Yeah. Tommy, tell people how they can get involved in this program of yours. Give them all the information.
You know what? Illinois Heart Rescue is like I said, nonprofit organization, and you can email Terry Campbell. Let me get her email up here.
Tommy's looking in his phone right now.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah,
he's getting all the pertinent. He doesn't want to mess this up.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm. You know what? I'm an expert at the phone. You can ask all my coworkers.
Well, I'm watching you just attack this phone like it owes you money.
I tried to get I tried to get a marshal line put in my house after I retired, and they denied me of it. Just to talk
biggest mistake the city ever did, Tommy.
Just to talk to the firemen, just to talk to the firemen. Let me see here.
So are you guys? You're not looking for funding or anything like that.
No,
you just want awareness.
Just awareness. Any fire department in the state of Illinois that wants to join Illinois Heart Rescue, we're willing to take them, and it's a great organization. It really is.
So when you say that to join, like, what are you like? giving them information on how to initiate bystander CPR.
Right.
You're
Well,
trying to educate people.
right, correct.
Okay.
Right. So they're out there looking for organizations, churches, different kind of neighborhoods to go out and actually do
Basically teach CPR.
right, basically
Okay.
teach CPR. Correct. Bystander CPR.
Okay. Which is, you know, a lot different than first responder CPR. And, you know, I don't teach bystander CPR, but I can imagine that you're just kind of telling them where to push and, you know, how fast to push.
So here's her email. It's T as in Tom, L as in Larry, C as in Charlie, dot ILHR, Illinois Heart Rescue, at outlook.com. So if you're interested in any fire department throughout the state of Illinois, send her an email. Like I said, Rosemont just joined as of a couple days ago. We do a great job. They have great doctors, great staff. We do 100% call review of the cardiac arrest, and we give you a great feedback.
Okay.
So that's really
All right.
about
Well,
it.
any last words, any advice of a 35-year veteran to some of these new call takers, dispatchers?
Just, you know what, it's a good job. You just want to help people. You know, you have to go in with a good attitude, and you want to help people, and you want to just, you know, like I said, you have to get control of the call and take control. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. People are screaming at you on the phone because that person is not breathing, or their family member is not doing well, or the house is on fire, you know.
Or there might be a salty field chief that wants to come down and fight you.
Yeah, right. You might get we get a lot of salty calls. Yeah, we get a lot of salty calls. But
Is that one of your more crazy calls of, like, are there any like actual in the office incidents that, you know, that may have may have made it from the field to the alarm office?
Oh yeah, they
Really?
they used to blame the office quite a bit, but then it went away, kind of. You know,
Yeah.
you have to be. You know, people say don't be close with the field. It's good to be close with the field. I think it's good to be close with the field. Not too close, but close enough where you guys can work together.
You were close enough that, like, when we would talk to you on the radio, like, we would be like, "All right, Tommy."
Yeah, I know.
Or,
That was a lot of first name basis on them. And I appreciated it, really. When I retired, I had a great day. It was June 29th of 2018. I had a great day. A lot of people came down and saw me. A lot of people came show up at Firewater for
What
for a drink.
what was your first incident that you dispatched? What was it for? Do you remember?
No, probably no.
Do you remember your very last call that you dispatched?
I just gave a send off on the radio, and the last call I dispatched was probably a ambulance call or ambulance assist, because like I said,
But you don't remember.
when I started 35 years ago, we used to do 500 ambulance calls a day in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Now we're probably over 3,000 a day. So it is, and we have 80 ambulances, and as we all say, is that enough? And probably
Never
not.
enough.
Never enough.
It's never. You could put 100 ambulances
Well,
in the city, and it.
My philosophy is, I tell people, you could put an ambulance in every firehouse in the state of Chicago, it still wouldn't be enough,
No, there's never going to be.
because they're just going to keep calling.
Yeah.
But you have to get that. You know, that's why you could, with the rapport of the field and everything else, it helps to, my dad was a 44-year veteran. My brother had 38 years. My other brother had 25 years till he got hurt. And then my other brother, Bobby, I had 35, and then 34 and a half. And then my brother, Bobby, is about 23. So it's in the family. But my dad said, keep your mouth shut and your nose clean. You'll go far in life,
I think that's the standard dad advice for everybody.
Right, exactly. Right? Just keep your mouth shut and your nose clean, and you'll be fine. But
well, I guarantee you, there's a medic out there who's like, I can't believe Tom didn't remember that I was his last run.
Yeah, right. I'm sure.
Dispatched.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, just tell him, hey, 35 years, that's a lot of runs. I can't remember them all.
It's a lot of runs, exactly.
Well, I know you got to get out of here. You got to get to your new job.
Right, yes.
So congratulations on your semi-retirement.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for everything.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
really. It's been a pleasure, Vince.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time for us, man. So, again, Tom Gariti, 35-year veterans of the Office of Emergency Management. Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
Bye.
This has been a Fire and Iron Media production. You have something to say, people want to listen. How's that, Daddy?
The opinions and views are that of Chicago's bravest stories and their guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any municipal governments, fire protection districts, fire departments, EMS, or law enforcement organizations.